Yo, 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 Joes, and greetings, agents of Cobra Command. This is episode 321 of GI Joburg. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by two South Africans. Hello, Paul.
Hey guys, I was told I was supposed to wear shades for this episode.
And Rob.
Hello. Welcome. Welcome to me and to everyone else. But we're joined by someone else tonight.
321st voyage. We are being joined by a member from the Northern Hemisphere. Everybody, stand well back. Here comes Cujo.
Trying to get that Bing sponsorship, guys.
Products don't like
Greetings,
us.
greetings, GI Joburg. Greetings, faithful GI Joe community.
And to kick off episode 321, I mean, we've got a smorgasbord of things to get through, new O-rings and new comic books, etc. But we have to start with a somber tone. There is an in memoriam section this week, and Cujo is going to lead the charge on that.
Well, first of all, thank you for that introduction, Stephen. And honestly, it's great to see you folks from the Southern Hemisphere. Let's see. We did have a couple of deaths in the comics world this week. And honestly, I'm not going to labor it. Probably more important people have died during the sentence than all of us in this room. So, but the first person that we're looking at is Mark D. Bright, 1955 to 2024. He's an artist that worked on a lot of properties. He was brought into the business, I believe, by Christopher Priest, whom I've interviewed, and who we all know breathes fire. And of course, Christopher Priest was brought into the business by Larry Hama. So not too many jumps there. He definitely rode the 80s fame. But I'll start with you guys. Do you have a favorite Mark Bright fact or trivia or piece of art? Let me have it.
Throw it up front. Get it out,
with
guys.
some irony that, like, the day I learned of his passing, and this was via Larry Hama, in fact. His Facebook group, I've been faking it all my life. He posted the initial sort of in memoriam. That broke the news for a lot of us. It just so happened that I had visited my local library and picked up a trade paperback of Armor Wars, which was the Iron Man storyline of the late 1980s. Some of that content has made for motion picture release, but for the most part, it's pure Eddie's Iron Man storyline with Mark leading the charge on the art chores. Very signature style. My very first G.I. Joe comic book was issue 130, and that was well into the Andrew Wildman years of the artwork. But then my very second, after I discovered that G.I. Joe comic books were a thing, the very second issue that I found at a corner cafe was issue 108, which is entirely Mark Bright. So it was very formative for me. His art style, that was what I thought G.I. Joe artwork in general in the comic book was meant to look like. So, yeah, man, what an absolute legend.
I think he started in issue 35 and did sporadic issues through 108. I think had some writing chores on 109. So if you're a Casualties of War fan, you're Mark Bright.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Actually didn't know he wrote.
It's actually
wild.
Like the way he does muzzle flashes. Very circular. Especially when you've got an automatic weapon that kind of is spraying. He sort of draws consecutive circles side by side. I'll try and find a visual reference for that. But yeah, he did that whole Millville storyline, I remember, with Grunt and Spirit. Massive, massive tenure with Joe. Cannot be understated.
But it's wild to me. Until he passed, I actually don't think I'd really known the name so well, unfortunately. He's kind of like an unsung hero of comic books. Because as I kind of like went through his, bibliography, like he really did. He did an absolute ton of G.I. Joe comic books, which is wild. And it's like I really don't recognize this name at all. I was watching, I think, someone else saying he's such a good artist. You know, like whenever you see his style, and it's what I've kind of realized as I've been looking through some of his stuff, it's very uniquely his. And he's not kind of like overdoing his artwork. He's kind of very focused on kind of being, at least to me, it feels like he's very functional. Like he kind of gets the issue done, but he also has his own kind of way of seeing things. And the way that he does action is absolutely fantastic. Kind of like following the action through panels. It's actually very good.
Nice subtle move there.
I quite enjoyed. But yeah, it's wild. I'm looking forward to discovering more of his comic books now in his death, unfortunately, than I did ever realize that I might have read in life. Which makes me very sad.
Hey, they ain't gone if we ain't forgot.
True.
He did do that iconic Transformers cover. You guys all know what I'm talking about. The one that made
the Autobots are all dead.
Yeah.
The Transformers are all dead. Yeah.
That was that book jumped off the shelf. Yeah.
Mm.
And there's our Snake Eyes that we were speaking about last weekend.
Yes, actually, weirdly enough, that origin issue of the third version of Snake Eyes was drawn by Mark D. Bright. This is why I think it looks so good.
It's quite crazy that we were like kind of speaking about that around the time that, you know, this all went down.
I mean, it just serves to prove the point that his work was everywhere and so essential to our I suppose understanding of what GI Joe in print looks like. Yeah.
He was also quite, I mean, I didn't know this, unfortunately. I've never read many Milestone comics, but he was quite big on Milestone as well. He was one of the main artists for Icon, and I believe the co-creator of Icon, who was essentially the Superman of the Milestone universe.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of getting into Milestone now. It's always been something I've wanted to read, but never had kind of like, I guess, an excuse to kind of go into it. But now that I kind of know someone that I know is good, I'm actually looking forward to kind of checking out Milestone finally.
Cool thing for me, and this also, it's very posthumous, but I at least have one of the few physical GI Joe issues I have is a Mark Bright issue. So it is.
Well, yeah, I don't own a single one. I was going through my like 6 or 7 like physical issues I own. Unfortunately, none of them are by him, which is weird. I mean, he did over 40 of them, so it's like, how did I? It's almost like a conscious.
Yeah, the odds are pretty. The odds are pretty high that you might have one of his. But that's, I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, at least we can celebrate how awesome he is through these books, through GI Joe. At least for us, mostly through GI Joe, because he has that definitive. Well, I don't want to call it a definitive style. I want to say that he makes GI Joe books look like GI Joe books, and that's a cool thing. That's a very cool thing. And I having had a look through some of his like bibliography, if I can put it that way, or I recognize quite a few like issues where I'm like, I've copied from that issue before. So that's pretty cool. Like, shame, man. It's a sad one. Larry Hama in his post seemed quite devastated as well, which was shame, man. I feel my heart goes to him because I mean they were obviously good friends. So
played together a lot actually. Mark played bass, Larry played guitars and vocals.
I wonder if Bright is one of the characters in GI Joe. You know how Larry has people that he keeps track of in there.
I wonder. I mean,
I wonder if they knew each other as early as like 80, 81. I mean, that's when
it could even be. I mean, it's after the fact, but Doc makes sense because I mean, I believe
that was his nickname. That was his nickname, Mark D. Bright.
Yeah,
good one.
And from pictures I've seen of him, he did wear glasses. He's kind of like a bigger fella, or at least in the later pictures, he did kind of keep his hair very short. So he could possibly, I thought that was kind of cool to realize.
Quick shout out to the chats. Thank you. We're up to 16 people watching us at the moment. We've got Joseph, we've got Moonlight, Darren, Peter, Stephanie, Joe, Rob, Alan,
welcome guys.
Gussie Goro, Hans Chow's in here. Riddy01.
Also, a shout out to Stephanie on your very cool acquisition. Stephanie got a complete tiger rat today. So
wow.
Your playtime.
And I know Alan Grant got a complete pilot for that Tiger Rat, Sky Strike.
Oh,
He's currently
wow.
in New Zealand, and he seems to be finding GI Joe Mecca. I mean, like,
wow,
stuff just
it's
falling from
so
trees.
far away. I mean, who's going all the way to New Zealand to look for toys?
Well, Mr. Grant, Joe Fan 84, rounding out the chats. Thanks for joining us, guys. As I say, a bit of a somber note to start on, but very important that we send off legends of our, I suppose, our understanding of G.I. Joe.
I think on the obit, it said that Bright passed peacefully. So God bless, 95 till now. That's a good run. It's a damn good run.
Yeah, that's fantastic. At least, he did pass away peacefully.
Shall we move along?
Unfortunately, the only death in the week prior. Right, Coach?
I'll give some context on this next one up front, just so our voices have weight. You know GI Joburg 321. We've been here for over 300 chats. I've interviewed folks for the better part of 10 years in the pop culture community, many of them as indies as they're coming up. So I have not met this next person. That would be Ed Piskor, whom 1982 to 2024. His exit can be chatted up, but I think what I want to preface is that I think this hit everybody in a different way, because many of us don't feel heard, don't feel seen correctly. But I think it's worth going around the room. We'll talk art on the way out, but maybe your experience with any of Piskor's work, your thoughts on the situation at hand. Since we're all visible, here we are all on screen. So,
well, his connection to G.I. Joe primarily comes from my favorite G.I. Joe story of all. Of course.
Hello.
Transformers versus G.I. Joe, Tom Shirley. He did the variant cover for issue 2, which has a wonderful collection of G.I. Joe A-listers and B-listers. And Blaster and Soundwave
and
dominating the skyline. Of course, they're there.
I don't want to give away my favorites or anything on this cover, but is it the only cover that has Headman on it? I can't think of another issue, really.
I think it probably is, actually.
No, I think there is one in the 90s run. Yeah, I think there is.
Maybe like the one cover that features him, but I mean, he doesn't look as cool as he does in this one. No,
cool. He's pimping in this one.
He looked cool.
show me those.
Possibly was a Wildman cover. What's it called? Triple Play with Eco Warriors and. DEF.
Yeah, because I remember Cesspool or something on that cover for some reason as well.
Was it? Okay.
Or am I could be wrong, but I do remember Cesspool being involved in that issue.
Well, it's certainly not as memorable as this cover. I mean, you can see he's definitely
cool,
an indie artist. I mean, he kind of has that style where he kind of like draws things, I think, less towards realism. I mean, even though I guess the robots do look very realistic, he's kind of like filling something out towards the personalities of the characters.
And they do feel very match for Tom Shirley,
which I think is fantastic. I believe they were good friends as well. Tom Shirley.
It's a very cool, like
Piskor.
Yeah, it's a very cool, almost street art style as well. Like kind of, it's got that vibe. The sort of freshness and the organic quality of like street art. It's tight, but it's still wobbly. Which I mean, I love that. I absolutely love that kind of thing. That's why I love Tom Shirley's artwork as well. Tom Shirley's book so much, should I say?
It's probably where style looked like in the northern hemisphere after that comic goes by, or the eclipse. Sorry.
So, Ed Piskor's a kind of a funny one, and I was saying to the guys before we started this off, I wasn't like consciously aware of Ed Piskor as an artist. Okay, I know that sounds terrible to say and whatever, but I mean there are so many artists out there. There's so much work out there. And we get bombarded by stuff on Insta and everything all the time, every day. So, like, although I know this artwork, and now having seen, again, posthumously, seen a lot of the work he was responsible for, I'm kind of like, oh, wow, I really like this guy's stuff. And for me, like, how I heard of him passing away was actually J. Scott Campbell did a tweet about it. And he just said there's a lot to learn from this. and I was like, okay, who's the Ed Piskor guy? And then I Googled, and then I saw some GI Joe vs Transformers art and stuff pop up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty hectic. Like that's quite sad. Like, and then further than that, I mean, I saw a bit of an interview with him. It was on a YouTube short, and from what I gleaned from that, what is it? The 30 to 60 seconds of a YouTube short was the dude seemed like a cool guy, man. Like he was talking about how like the richest people in Japan, or 6 of the richest people in Japan, are manga artists, and he just said like, and he was like, artists have that potential. I'm summing it up now, but I like that. I was like, it was cool to hear that, and it was, and it was just also just sad watching this, knowing that he's now passed away. So unfortunately, I don't have that much knowledge of him, but I'm going to have a lot more knowledge of him now because
that's unfortunately the same case for me. I think there was one customer who collected a very recent series that Ed did called Red Room, which I did kind of look through. It's very indie, and that's kind of like his space, where I think he very much believed like the creating comics is an imperative for him. And he kind of went out there and he made the best comics that he possibly could, and owning his own comic books, because he really didn't do much in the way of or actually any, as far as I can tell, in the mainstream. Probably the most mainstream thing he did was kind of a wild thing that Rob Liefeld did for the final issue of Snake Eyes Dead Game. He basically so Rob Liefeld penciled the entire issue, but he got almost every single page of the issue to be inked by someone else. So like from huge people like Neil Adams, Jerry Ordway, Kevin Eastman, to Tom Shirley, as well as Ed Piskor, they all kind of like inked at least one page or one spread in that issue. And it's absolutely incredible how Rob Liefeld's art style can change just depending on who was inking his artwork. And it's probably one of the first times
they don't just trace.
Well, they don't just trace. I mean, there really is there is a uniqueness to what inkers can bring when it comes to creating people's art.
Very much so.
That was kind of cool.
I've always seen an inker on a bit of a side tangent there. I've always seen the inker as kind of I don't want to say the sound guy necessarily, but if you have to look at it from like a music perspective or a band perspective, an inker is kind of like the sound technician, in a lot of ways, because yes, you've got the guitars and stuff, but the inker kind of fine tunes it so that things are kind of balanced well, so that people can actually appreciate the different instruments. That's one way of looking at inkers, and so they don't trace. I'm just putting that out there.
No,
in many
I think that's the general
complete the artwork. My understanding is that sometimes a penciler can really rough things in, and it's the inker's job to try and take these roughs and just make it into commercially acceptable artwork.
Yeah.
No, totally. Guys, a question about Ed just before I say what I wanted to say, because then I'm going to hand it back to Cujo and you guys. But was Ed Piskor kind of, I mean, obviously not to us, but I mean, was he kind of a big figure in his space, in the indie space?
I'd like to think he was. I mean, he was exceptionally well known amongst a lot of indie people. Especially he was very close also with a lot of the Image people. He did a lot of artwork for a lot of Image stuff. But probably the thing that a lot of people would know him, or maybe not know him best for, but there was Fantastic Four Grand Design, which was by Tom Shirley, where kind of Tom
I've seen that.
Told the history. Yes, where I'm mentioning that first. So he did that one. And then on the back of that, I believe, or maybe the X-Men one came first, but Ed Piskor did the Grand Design X-Men, which is kind of like a retelling of the entire iconic history of the biggest events in X-Men history. Absolutely gorgeous book. Definitely one that I want to try and find. But I think he was a big figure in the indie industry, where he was this kind of guy who encouraged people to kind of create comic books and be the best you could be, essentially. Just go out there and make a comic book. Because then that's just do it.
in that spirit, what I wanted to say was that, when, and I'm speaking to like artists here, guys who draw and whatever's, in that spirit, it's kind of a case of, when you're a young artist, you're always thinking like, oh, I've got to draw the Marvel way. Oh, I've got to draw like Image Comics. Oh, I've got to draw like Jim Lee or whatever it is to be good. And it's a real shame that somebody like Ed Piskor has passed away now. But in a lot of ways, his style, and this extends to guys like Tom Shirley and a lot of other artists who are very stylized. If your artwork is very stylized, I would say that like these guys are inspiration to remind you that you can draw your way. You should be, you should draw your truth. Sorry, I know it sounds very hammy, but like it shows you that you can actually get a book out there. You can get whatever out there with your style, and you just have to believe in yourself. And it's hard. That shit's hard, man. It's hard to believe in your stuff and in your style. And it's easy to like think, okay, cool. If I can just copy this artist's way, I'll get in. And I just want to do, I think that's one of the things that a lot of us as artists can learn. And even myself, I mean, I'm always learning that, just to trust in your style and trust in your process and trust in the fact that, there are people that will see your work. And, as we're speaking here, I know that not like, for myself, I'm not like this big guy that knew Ed Piskor's stuff, but I knew his work. I saw his art. I saw his art in places that I liked. And I was just too dumb to like do more research on it. But so it's just a reminder, guys, that like, draw the way that you do it, and just keep believing in yourself, and it'll kick down the right doors for you, because that's a vibe I got from Ed Piskor as well. It's like that he kind of did things his way, at least that's the vibe I got from what I saw from the few shorts here and there. Anyway, back to you guys. Enough being an artist.
Just so that nobody takes us to task in the comments section. Issue 124 had the headman in, the cover calls the issue Triple Threat. And then we open it up and it's called Triptych. This is something that always confused me when covers had their own kind of title. And then the issue itself, of course, had something else for the title. But yes.
It's like GI Joburg,
Yeah.
When the title is one thing and the banner says something else. I wonder how that happened.
We finesse it. Yes. Triple action GI Joe. Yeah. They were trying out new things in the 90s. In any case, guys, we have a question.
Too cool.
Very cool. We have a question in the chats and a super chat. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
From a long story short. Is South Africa still restricted on eBay from international orders? Paul, I'll hand this over to you.
I've never sold anything on eBay in South Africa, so I don't know. So from that side, I don't know. As for buying, no, I know of a few people that have been buying things off eBay recently. It's just shipping is really expensive for South Africans.
Shipping is really
unbelievably stupid expensive. So I do recommend, like, if you're going to, and I'm speaking to South Africans here, if you guys are listening, if you are just getting into the Joe habit and you've decided eBay is the place that you like to get your Joes from, I would suggest you use something like a forwarding service, something like MyUS or Aramex, something like that, where they can send it to like a hub, and then that hub can actually send it to you. That way, it will get to you, because in South Africa, anything that you get through normal postage, good luck. It's like the lotto. Now, I'd rather try my luck on the lotto.
Not working here. Yeah.
And
at all.
A little hack that I discovered, because I've seldom been using eBay when within the United States. I've always been outside. Set your location to the US, and then you will see everything. Because if you're anywhere else in the world, it kind of restricts what is visible to you.
That's cheating.
Pro tip there.
It's cheating. That's not the right way.
Maximize your chances of finding exactly what you want.
Steven, your thoughts on the Piskor situ, if you got one?
Well, I think Paul said it all, and I quite like his message, so I'm just going to reinforce it, that like stay true to your style. And I mean, Ed was an example of someone who made it with his signature style, not copying commercial artwork. That's a lesson to us all. Like, don't try and copy someone else's success. You have to stay true to yourself. Otherwise, you might make it, but you'll be trading on a lie and you'll lose yourself.
No,
some more than others. Rob, any
for yourself, Cujo?
Well, I'm curious.
You're curious what I gotta say. I think once again, like, I'm just so stuck in the mainstream comic book kind of like sphere that I've had very little experience with people outside of that sphere. And I think the only touch I've felt of Ed's is literally in that cover of his for Transformers GI Joe, and then having a look through the Snake Eyes Dead game. He's once again, like, just like Mark Bright, is someone else who I look forward to discovering posthumously. And even though that's a terrible thing, is discovering someone who looks like an incredible artist and who did really good work for himself throughout his life. There's still a lot to find out about him, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah. But for you?
Well, I don't step on camera unless I'm going to burn the house down. No, I'm just joking, guys. I think one thing that's worth mentioning, because a lot of folks came out pretty quick and started pointing fingers. It's worth mentioning that I've heard the comics community is toxic. People should distinguish between the people that capitalize on drama and the people that are in the community, so to speak. I'll say this. Have any of those folks ever mentioned GI Joburg? No, they haven't, which means that we don't play favorites and that we just are here observing things just like you.
Yeah, for sure. Thankfully, we're not in any of these drama people's mouths.
I think it's fair to say that every one of us has slipped and slid in DMs and said something stupid. We're not here to judge. That's a whole different story. I will say that the people that came out with responsible angles, first I want to elevate Comic Tropes, somebody who's turned up for people in our community. But he literally saw Piskor's note on Facebook and put on his timeline, look, if you know where Piskor is, get to his house. That's GI Joe, baby. That's codename Lifeline. I see you. I appreciate you. Also, I want to elevate a guy that I chat with on the regular on Twitter or X, and that would be Aaron Myers, a dude who actually did a comics podcast that I used to listen to, Comics Therapy. And when I started doing my pod, it was somebody I chatted to. He turned up on his timeline. He's got reach, and he was responsible. There's a lot of folks that weren't. There's a lot of folks that are still twisted over it. And they'll have to live with themselves for what they've done. But
Cujo's hung. Interesting. He's broadcasting from the United States, and
yeah, he's still there. Steven, you're the one that looks like you're hung.
You're back. It could be me. I just can see a mirror behind me is leaning against the wall. But no, I wanted to elevate folks that do it right. Everybody's quick to point out people that do it wrong.
I think covering something like this responsibly is the important thing to do. I did read Ed Piskor's final message as well. And I think with the way that news moves so quickly these days, the information kind of spreads. People always often feel like they have to have the first opinion possible out there in the sphere, so that either you can be praised for it or you can be acknowledged as the first person to say something about something. And there's less responsibility in kind of like following up and finding out why certain things have been said, why certain things happened. And yeah, I think it's very sad that he decided he couldn't, kind of like recover from this. And I think, definitely a good message to come out of this is be kind to everyone around you and everyone online. Whenever you interact with someone, remember there's a person behind that screen. There are real life people that you're affecting if you do, positively or negatively, depending on your comments when you interact with people online.
It's also important to remember that media has been gutted, and that goes for genre media as well. So there's not going to be as quick a response from responsible voices. A lot of folks have had to reflect on what happened so quickly. But I will end on this, the positive note. Obviously, Ed felt like he couldn't talk to anybody in the sphere, and that's the true tragedy. But I wanted to point out one other dude before I move on. When that went down, guess who reached out and checked to see if I was all right? Dave Cabal. That dude. That dude.
Hey.
That dude. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Dave Cabal's rad.
He's a real one.
He is, and that's where I'm going to end it. That look at GI Joe. You think this happened by mistake? You got GI Joburg for 300 talks. You got codename Cujo. Oh, I don't want to talk to Cujo. He's an asshole. You're right. He is. But then you got Joe on Joe. You got Joe on Joe. But then you got HCC, who does something for the community every year that gets people seen. But then you got what's on Joe Mine. I forgot about you guys. But then you got Motorpod. Guys, elevate some pod out there that's turned up for the community. I can't listen to them all. Articulated battles. Who's out there? Steven, help me out.
It's difficult. Chaplin's assistant.
I love Chaplin's assistant.
Full name?
Order of battle.
That's what I'm talking about.
Audible interlude.
Look at
a
it
personal
this
favorite
way.
of mine, Greg and Joel. Greg and Jason.
Look at it this way, guys. Tell me a continent we ain't got covered. Do we have Australia? Yeah, we do. Do we have South Africa? Yeah, we do. Do we have Europe? Oh, don't let me forget about Full Force, who's been covering the celebrity corners. Like we got it. We got you. You're not alone. We got Word Burglar
Australia
in Canada. Word Burglar does comic interviews. We got you guys. We got you.
Word Burglar's new vinyl cover is cool.
Word Burglar's been turning up just like you guys. Yeah, we may be talking from our living rooms, but you got one of the strongest networks in the world. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Well, bedrooms. I'm in my bedroom.
Nice. Nice.
Doesn't matter where you are, as long as you can get your voice out there. That's the important thing. You know.
Yeah.
Speak your truth. Draw your truth, as Paul said.
Don't let somebody else tell your story. That's the clown move in this era. Don't do that.
I think that's true.
Guys, we got some correspondence this past week.
Yes.
So Paul put it out into the world that we have a photography competition on the go.
We don't have a photography competition. It's a showcase. Just show us cool pictures.
And we got an awesome response from Mike's GI Joe Dojo on YouTube. But he sent us some pictures via the mail. He's a 12-inch collector. Put together some pictures of his collection with some Easter eggs. One of them being the fact that George Washington has traveled back or forward in time and is now very much in the 20th century holding a bazooka.
Nice.
But it's a selection of his 12-inch figures.
Enemy.
Where did that go-kart come from? What is that?
I have no idea, but it looks like Chris
That's so
Hemsworth
cool.
is driving it.
I want that. Yeah.
He's got various action soldiers or adventure team guys.
Dude, I just want Steve Zissou. Back on
Yes,
the red beanie.
Eagle eye.
In the background, you've got Accelerator Suit Duke, but then he decided to showcase Accelerator Suit Duke by chucking him in the front. Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for that one, G.I. Joe.
Fun shot.
Thank you, Mike. We got Jackson Chan sending us a picture of Voltar. Very nice. The caption was, "I suffer from gold plastic syndrome." I don't know if he does. Like, those backpacks of Voltars are notoriously easily broken, but I don't think they've crumbled to dust. I've got a few samples, and the plastic seems still firm, even though it's made from that swirly stuff, which typically does just crumble, especially if you're a transformer. Nicely done. Got some sharp lighting, creating a nice kind of ribbon effect of light. And yeah, man, Voltar, criminally underserved as a figure. He's a fantastic sculpt, just kind of brought down maybe by one very extreme color choice.
Fuchsia Force.
And then on the back of our Snake Eyes expose, 1989 Snake Eyes.
I'm glad you're putting this
I did
up.
a lineup of all the Snake Eyeses, and our buddy Sam Smith not music, Sam Smith. This is Sam Smith, attorney at law. No. He decided to use an analogy of video game consoles, saying 1982 Snake Eyes is the NES, 1985 Snake Eyes is the SNES, 1989 Snake Eyes is the N64, 1991 Snake Eyes is the Virtual Boy, and then Ninja Force Snake Eyes is the Atari 2600.
Which I have to say something about. I want to say something.
Take it away.
Do not. Virtual Boys are crap. I'm just putting that out there. They're not nice. I would have, if anything.
That was the idea, bud.
I know, right? That's why I'm like,
I'm
confused because you've called the wrong Snake Eyes Virtual Boy here, in my humble opinion. Also, although I love my N64 for like 3 very good reasons, I'm sure you guys all have the same reason why you might love N64, and that is
Twin Snakes.
Ocarina of Time. No, N64, not GameCube. N64 is Ocarina of Time, Perfect Dark, and or GoldenEye, and the third pick for me, it's got to be the original. What's it? I loved Dark Forces on that console, but those would be my 3 like N64 picks. And I love the N64, but that Snake Eyes, and I know what he's trying to say, so I'm going to say N64 / Mega Drive or Genesis.
Wow.
The Americans had the Genesis. Yeah, like it's up there for me. Yeah, it's totally cool. Like
spinning, dude.
Yeah, no, but I love this. I think this is such a cool way to rate stuff as well. And it's quite cool because for every one of us, those consoles all resemble different things. So for some people, the SNES and that Snake Eyes is like that's like the highest honor, whereas for some of us, the NES is the highest honor. You know.
Yeah.
And then for some of us, I don't know who you are. The Virtual Boy is there.
Strange, very strange. Hey, Rick.
We got Steven in the best screenshot ever.
We do. We caught him. We got you, Steven.
We caught him. Rubbing his nose.
You don't think that's going to end up on Cobra Convergence? Oh, you know.
Hell yeah.
It's going to end up on Cobra Convergence.
Clearly, my wife is using the bandwidth right now.
Hey,
we got a shout out from Rick at Glass Jazz. Hey, Joburg just got here. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, thank you, Rick.
Welcome.
Rick's in here? My man.
Yeah.
So
he's gotten some really cool toys lately. Like, wow. Like, Rick's always getting cool stuff.
He's always getting cool toys.
I love looking at his Instagram.
So, speaking of Instagram and Facebook and all that, on our Facebook channel, I saw this is not really part of the game. Like, somebody has to actually send this to us, but I saw this and I thought this image was cool. And I like the caption. It's like, if you believe in yourself, you can make sneak peek, hold these periscope, says Trent Avery with his picture of a sneak peek with the that giant.
I didn't think that was possible. I've never tried that myself.
His core
yeah, me neither. Yeah, it's insane. But it's a cool shot. But I love this shot. This was by Michael Forbes. It's got Snake Shadow, Storm Shadow in the foreground, and it's basically it's kind of it's basically a still from the Excalibur episode, if memory serves. So from Sambo, but it's just a cool shot. Old Footloose is there underneath the ram.
In our group, I thought the 2 photos were like one after the other. So there's like sneak peek with his periscope watching something, and then this is what he's looking at. He's looking at the butt of Snake Eyes, Snake Storm.
Well, I love this shot. I would love it if we could make this available as a wallpaper or something for the Berg Force. Michael Forbes, your Excalibur shot, and why not the sneak peek could give a few people a good laugh. That's for Trent Avery. But Joe, guys, thank you so much for the photos. Please keep them coming. It's always cool to see.
Send them to us. I mean, that's one of the real South African hero at gmail.com if you are so inclined, and they'll be
if you dare. Yeah, it's one of the best ways to play with your toys is to take photos of them. Anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Yeah.
No, this next segment is going to have you talking a lot, buddy.
Uh-oh.
O-ring Ghostbusters.
Who are you going to call? Paul. You're going to call Paul because he wants these toys.
They're playing my exit music, guys.
All right, Cujo's going to do.
Well, thank you for joining us, Cujo, and thank you for bringing a light to Bright and Piskor. I think it's important to remember, good artists. So
that was lyrical, brother. I appreciate that. And it's honestly, you brought up that one, Ghostbuster. I've been looking at the Colorado Springs Comic Con. Guess who the guest of honor is? That Johnson dude. I forget his name.
Oh, hell yeah.
Ernie Johnson. You don't think I'm going to pick his brain? Oh, yeah.
You better.
Anyway, guys, the GI Joe community is here. It's always here because it's baked in, baby. Yeah. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the other side.
Before you run out, where can people find you when you're not on with us?
Well, I do turn up on YouTube, codename Cujo, and those videos vary. Enjoy that. Of course, you can always reach me by email, cujo86@gmail. But hey, I'm no stranger to the comic world, and honestly, it's one of the most important mediums if you're asking me. It's the ability to tell a story. One person can tell a story. That story can last for hundreds of years. It has. So, yeah, I'm here for comics. I'll be here, and I know these gentlemen will be too.
Hell yeah!
Thank you, gents, and
thank you.
I'll look at that Ghostbusters action in due course. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, my dude.
Yo,
also, thank you, Hans Chow. I did mean Shadow of the Empire, not Dark Forces.
How very dare you? How dare you get it wrong?
That was just that's a listener test. That's to make sure everybody's paying attention.
And
Ghostbuster GI Joes.
So must I, gents. I'm afraid my child has just awoken, and so I leave the podcast in the very capable hands of Paul and Rob.
Uh-oh.
Yo, Joe.
Dangerous. Good luck, Steve. Okay. So Steve was asking, what do I think about these guys? Dudes, this for me, for this fan over here. Hold on. This guy. This is one of the best things to happen to me as a toy fan in a long time. I've been wanting Ghostbusters figures like this for a very long time. In fact, I think, and I should really have done the research and gone back in time and watched the old episode, but we covered an episode once upon a time where we were like, what is the one thing that we wanted to see as an O-ring GI Joe?
Yes.
And I think one of mine was definitely the Ghostbusters, because this has been something I've been wanting for a very long time. And guys, it looks like it's going to happen. It's amazing. So, Rob, what are your thoughts, my dude?
It's just wild to me that, I mean, that we're finally getting like a proper scaled Ecto 1, which I think is pretty cool. Which is actually put all our Joes in there.
But how's this for random? Because that Ecto 1, and I know this because they did this Ecto 1, or they did an Ecto 1 for Afterlife, which was weirdly scaled for like 4-inch or 3/4 inch figures. But they never released anything to fit inside that vehicle. So they released the car for that scale, but nothing to go in it. And so I always thought that was weird. It is weird, right? Like I always thought, okay, maybe the plan is to release some kind of reaction style figure or some kind of nonsense. But here we are. O-ring figures. Pardon me. O-ring figures of the Ghostbusters. And it's all 4 of them.
I think it's also a very strange thing to see, because I mean, I think when they kind of like tried to bring back GI Joe as O-ring, and it kind of flopped, we assumed that Hasbro wasn't going to try actually to do any more figures in the O-ring format or 3/4 inch scale. But yeah, they come back with Ghostbusters, and it also kind of makes a lot of sense as well, because you can kind of do, if they don't want to do entire lines based in this this scale in this format, choosing something where you can have a complete team like with the Ghostbusters, like that's the complete original team of the Ghostbusters with the Ecto 1. It's kind of like a one and done thing. It makes sense that they would even attempt it, and I'm glad that they are trying it. I'm very curious to see how these stack up against GI Joes, if the quality is similar to what we did get in the retro line. Is that what it's called? Retro line, when they brought out
it was the retro O-ring thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because I mean that's kind of the natural like sort of progression in the conversation. It's like okay, so they've done those and they weren't like super successful, but that's because we were comparing those, and rightfully so, by the way. They were basically GI Joe facsimiles, right? Which we were then comparing to the vintage originals, and and to be fair, Hasbro kind of missed an opportunity, or sort of, I don't know, jumped the shark, screwed the pooch, whatever. They didn't like nail them properly. Like maybe Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are the best offerings from that, at least in my opinion they were. And I have yet to check out that Sorana and the Zartan that comes with the
Best of the
Soundwave,
worst.
with the Thunderwave. But yeah, those figures had the unfortunate sort of status of being compared to the originals. These don't.
Yeah,
and I think that gives
these
these
can
a bit of an
completely
edge.
stand alone. Like they are.
Yeah,
It's them represented as 3 3/4 inch figures. And from these preview, I mean, from the preview figures that they have made, they look very good. Like the likenesses actually look pretty spot on. And I like that. Like, because I was like looking at them and I was like, okay, this must have been so easy to make. It's like you just 4 heads are the same bodies, but there is some slight variation. I mean, you can see from the shot that we have showing here. Bill Murray's character, he was more slovenly, so his pants are actually kind of like going over his boots.
Which is cool because that's an actual detail. Yeah. And those are the details that matter in the Ghostbusters, because Venkman does have his like pants are loose, for example.
Yeah.
And
so they could still differentiate, but they could still obviously, I mean, save a lot of money by making essentially the same molds for everything. So
exactly
for most everything, I think.
And also cool that they got and I'm also just hopeful because I can't really tell on these pictures. I have tried to look, but it's very difficult. But I hope that they do have a little bit of some form of a wrist swivel, because that's going to make it a lot easier to hold the neutrino wand.
It could be incorporated. I mean, they all have black gloves on, so it could be at the edge where the glove meets the arm. Although that's quite high up on the.
But still welcome. I'm actually. If that's the case, I'm happy with that. That would be most welcome.
It's enough.
I hope that they do that. Yeah. But that'll be cool. So I suppose we're gonna find out, what is it, August or September, when these guys are supposed to come out. I think is.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Are you hoping for more figures? What would a second series of this look like, do you think?
A second series for me of this would look like the Ghostbusters in their Ghostbusters 2 episodes with the slime blowers.
Like grey outfits in there.
Yeah, with the grey outfits with the slime blowers, that would be cool. I'd love that. And I also wouldn't mind if they sprinkled in a few ghosts. Like, I know everybody. I don't know. I was never that blown away by Walter Peck in the original Matty Collector lineup. But let's be fair, it wasn't really Walter Peck. It was the containment unit that came with Walter Peck as an accessory. I would love to have more ghosts, like even if it's just weird ghosts that come with a human being. So like if it was Walter Peck and like 3 ghosts that come with him, and then it would be great to have Janine Melnitz as well with with Slimer and 2 different variations of Slimer. And then the 2
if it follows
would
the
be
format
cool.
of the first series, I mean, I'm assuming this is. Are they individually carded and then you get the Ecto one separate, or is it like a 1 box thing where you get all 4 figures?
I think you get all 4 figures in 1 box. I think that's how they're going to do it, or they're going to be 2 packs.
What do you think a feature piece for the second series could be?
The feature piece for the second series should be Gozer and the 2 Pterodogs with a bit of the building.
Yes, the staircase leading up to the portal. That'd actually be very cool. You can do a 3rd series with the painting. I think the painter would be really cool from the second movie.
Oh yes, yeah, Prince Vigo.
Yeah,
and they should totally have it'd be cool if they kind of had the painting and they have 2 versions of the painting, maybe one that's got a different expression on his face, like the angry expression, or maybe slime or something coming down it, and then actually have Prince Vigo as a figure with Janusz.
That'd actually be really cool.
I think that'd be so cool. And then you could have Dana with the baby with is named after a hot dog. What is it again? I can't remember the name now. I can't believe I've watched these Oscar. His name's Oscar. Sorry, I've watched these movies so many times, and it's it kills me when I can't remember certain names of things in them. Anyway, yeah, Oscar. It's a cool movie. I mean, Ghostbusters is great. It's cool to be excited about a Hasbro release. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, of course, classified guys get their cool Dragonfly and all of that, but us, 3 3/4 inch enthusiasts, Not much coming from Hasbro that we can be excited for. So yeah, I'm excited for you to get this. If they could do the guys individually, I think I would definitely get them.
Oh, cool.
Just cool to have like 3.75-inch figures, I don't need the Ecto one. I mean, I'd love to have it, but it would probably be really expensive.
Yeah, I think the Ecto one's going to be what was the I've seen people speculate, and I've seen pricing of about $50 for the Ecto one, between 50 and 60 or something like that. So that's actually for me, that's a reasonable price, considering what the vehicle is. That I've got a whole bunch of vintage figures I can throw in there if I want to. We can screw the bodies open and put GI Joe heads and replace.
Yeah, you can go crazy. You can make it a dreadnought vehicle if you wanted to.
You could have a lot of fun with that. I'm happy with the pricing. Mostly, I'm actually just really happy it's not a Hasbro Pulse thing. Actually, that's my main thing. I'm just glad it's not like a super exclusive thing, that it'll probably be on BBTS soon, and that I'll be able to get it. And yeah, so
this is an interesting comment from Moonlight 47. Will that fit the scale of any Firehouse release? Do you think they could possibly do a scaled Firehouse? And would they?
I don't see. I think an accurately scaled 1:18 Firehouse would be a very big toy. But I think if they did a Firehouse that was a similar size to the Kenner Firehouse that they released, I think that's kind of realistic. But I don't know how fans would react to that. I don't know if, for myself personally, I love the idea of having the Firehouse, but it's not like I have to have it.
So they have done a Firehouse before. You're saying Kenner did one?
Sorry, Darren Cobb's I've heard them saying that the price of 10,000 human souls for it, and I think that is a fair price. It's a fair price.
Yeah, well, why not?
But Moonlight reminds me here, and Jim Godfrey has actually recommended this to me as well, is that Playmobil did a Firehouse as well. So
that's cool. Yeah. Although, the Firehouse, I don't know, it feels very iconic. I don't know if you can... Well, maybe it feels iconic to me because I've never seen other American Firehouses. Maybe they all look like that one.
Well, the 8th Hook and Ladder is kind of a special place for Ghostbusters fans. A big thing that I want to kind of put out there, with regards to them doing a playset for this line, is that would probably be how Hasbro gets us. So they'll be like, oh, yeah, Ecto 1. And everybody's like, yay. And they'll be like, here's Ghostbusters, yay. And then they'll announce something like Goes with the Gazarian and the 2 Terror Dogs with the portal. And they'll be like, yay. And we'll be like, yay. And they're like, Firehouse, Hasbro Pulse. Crowdfund that.
Yep, HasLab Firehouse comes with the exclusive, casual versions of the characters. They can go down the functioning pole. It has a basement, so you can see the containment facility for the ghosts. Ooh, it can have a reproduction scene.
Shit,
it can have cool. Wait, is the scene with Dan Aykroyd and the ghost? Is that in the Firehouse?
Yes. Yeah. You know where I'm getting at with that. What's happening there?
That'd be so
He's
good.
being haunted.
Have that.
Hey, listen, that would be an awesome play feature. Marshmallow Man. Marshmallow Man could also be a cool thing that they could do for that.
I mean, the possibilities for HasLabs or huge pieces are well, not endless, but there's a lot. You can also do the Statue of Liberty, a giant moving Statue of Liberty. I mean, that's another possibility you could kind of try out.
I also think the Sedgwick Hotel would be cool as well. Not the whole
I know
hotel,
you can do the whole thing, but the main ballroom, I guess.
Yeah, a ballroom and a passage that is part of a toy that you can turn around or something. You can have the passage scene here.
The passage at the back on the side or something.
And then have the ballroom as a great display scene for you as a collector, because you can have all of them out there with the neutrino wands, and then maybe it can come with a special Slimer or something that they all have the proton streams connected to, that they can, or something. You could do something fun with that.
That'd be kind of cool. Actually.
HasLab add-on. Darren Cobb keeps slinging them winning phrases here. HasLab add-on comes with a giant Twinkie. So guys. I know that this is a GI Joburg, or this is a GI Joe podcast, and yes, thankfully, the powers of GI Joe and Hasbro style O-ring have been combined. So quickly, just to bring everybody back to it being a GI Joe podcast / YouTube video thing. Rob, what is, like, right now, just off the top of your head, what is a team of something, movie, TV series, whatever, that you would love to see an O-ring now that you've seen the Ghostbusters O-rings and you kind of go, oh wait, hold on, there's a possibility of them doing something cool? Yeah, tell us.
Something that I've always wanted to see, I think, in O-ring. I mean, it's kind of like it could exist on its own, and I think it could be a nice ancillary to kind of GI Joe, and it would be cool to kind of see them interacting with this character or this agency. Is a O-ring range of 24 figures, the series with Kiefer Sutherland, which I think would be absolutely amazing.
Well, we just had young Donald Sutherland on the show, so maybe that's why you're inspired. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm inspired to think about that. But like, I've always wanted like Kiefer Sutherland figures, but at O-ring scale. I mean, I've seen like some really nice like bigger figures, or like not even figures, you know, they're like little statues really kicking in a door or something. But I feel like there's a lot of iconic characters from that series, and it has such a broad range of characters, you know, from the terrorists to the people in the White House, that it could add a lot to kind of like the civilian life and the kind of like alternative agency angles that you could have in your playtime with GI Joe, which I think is really cool.
It'll also be nice to get some, you know, I'm trying to think of what is a cool name for spies these days? Like, what's a nice colloquial term for spies these days that isn't like offensive? Well, spies. It'll be nice to have some spies. And like,
some sort of like covert espionage characters, you know, who
highly
don't
secrets of government officials,
you know. I thought it was a nice kind of like complementary thing to GI Joe, where it's kind of like more realistic, but it also adds more to the world of GI Joe, which I think is a lot what we did with using like the core figures. You can kind of complement how you're playing with the GI Joes with the core, but I always wanted like government agents, or like more like government-y type people, you know, like civilian type people kind of like play with. Darren has a good suggestion: Stargate.
The TV series, of course.
Well, obviously.
Obviously. I still think the world needs an O-ring Kurt Russell. I don't know why we haven't got one yet.
Well, you know, thankfully we've had enough people customize them for us.
So yeah, exactly right. But you're being the owner of one.
Absolutely. Ooh, Cujo suggests Logan's Run. That could be kind of cool. I love how people's minds instantly go to sci-fi. Like GI Joe was giving that to us in the 90s, but you guys didn't buy it. You know, like we could have had these sci-fi elements in our GI Joe, but you know, you all just stopped buying the 90s stuff.
Star Brigade Sci-Fi is looking at everybody.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. He's looking at you guys, being like, "Why did you buy me? Why?"
I also love Black Star Ninja has got a great suggestion here, and you share a similar sentiments with another GI Joburg member who had to go and take care of his kid now. Black Star Ninja says, "I'd love to see Mask in O-ring. We got Matt Tracker in the 25th. We did, and it always seemed to make sense. Imagine if you got a vamp that could change into a flying mask vehicle." You are not alone, Black Star Ninja. I think a lot of people would really, myself included, would really love a mask O-ring set with a Thunderhawk, and all that stuff. And even, and have a little bit of a crossover with the GI Joe stuff. I like to, because of Sunbow, I do like to imagine that there's a crossover in their worlds. For me, I like that idea.
I'm glad Peter Moline agrees with everything we've said for the past 10 minutes. He loves Ghostbusters. He loves the idea of a 24 O-ring series. Fantastic. I'm glad you agree.
Ooh. Rick. I like where Rick is coming from. He's like, he wants Elisa Al Gaib. No, he wants Dune. He wants Dune figures, O-ring figures. That would be great.
That's the thing. Like O-ring, alternate 3/4 inch, really. I mean, obviously, it really does lend itself to the creation of nicely scaled vehicles that you can put figures in. You know.
Ben says TMNT O-rings. Hell yeah, my dude. I would love that, and I think that might actually happen. Just as much as I'm surprised nobody has said anything about Motu O-rings, because I think that needs to happen too. Moonlight 47, and I love this. Honestly, just because Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were made, I'd love a King of Fighters line. Will also include Metal Slug there. Yeah, man. Hey, come on. Like Terry in O-ring could be fun. Like, yeah, like maybe with the King of Fighters, you release them in different like blocks. So you do like a Fatal Fury wave, and you do an Art of Fighting wave, and then you do a Ikari Warriors wave, etc., etc. That could be quite fun.
Yeah.
Mask is the impossible dream.
I know a lot about King of Fighters. Yes.
Mask is the impossible dream, says Darren Cobb. I don't think it's that impossible. We'll see. Don't worry, guys. I think, and before I mention mine here, I watched this YouTube channel. I'm sure you guys also catch it. It's good for a bunch of laughs, and I think that's totally what it's intended for. Is the man-child news? Rob, I don't know if you ever picked it up.
I haven't watched them.
Retro blasting.
I'm a man.
They do.
And a child.
They do these little man-child things, and like it's cool because I mean, like it's just cool. It's like a cool little rant, whatever. It's like, you know, take it or leave it, whatever. But I love what he said. He's like, and proof that if you leave a monkey and a typewriter alone, eventually it will type out Hamlet. Right, Hamlet is true. And now Hasbro is doing the Ghostbusters O-ring figures.
Wait, is this by retro blasting?
Yeah, they do, man.
Okay.
So anyway, the thing that I want to get at here, I think Hasbro is at a place now where they're actually really trying to like, they're really trying to throw out all the ideas. They're like, this reminds me of that moment in the modern era GI Joe line, you know, when GI Joe was the only struggling toy line and everything else was doing well, and Hasbro kind of did a few wild things with that line. And like, oh my word, this is crazy. These are so cool. Data Viper, what's that? That's great. I want to, you know. I think that's kind of where Hasbro is right now. They're just like, just do the things. So maybe we'll see a mask line. I don't know. I don't know how long.
Either that or we might see it. I mean, Super 7, maybe. I mean, you never know. I mean, as they expand their O-ring line. I mean, they draw a lot of inspiration from the cartoons for their reaction figures and their their bigger GI Joe figures. It's possible that maybe they could even tap into Mask, because I mean they have tons of properties that they produce action figures for. So maybe we're finally gonna get cool Mask figures. I don't know.
Maybe we do. In closing, before we move over to the comic, I don't know if we should move to the comic without Steve, but I think we're gonna.
We have to. It's in the title. It's in the title.
It's in the title. We can't. It's the thumbnail's done, bro. It's there. It's ready. Aliens. I would love a bunch of Aliens O-ring figures, and just give me Ripley, give me Hicks, give me Apone, give me. Thank you. I can't believe. Give me Vasky. Give me Vasky's buddy. Big guy.
I don't remember any of those names.
Oh my word. Anyway, give me basically that whole team that lands
the
on
entire cast from Aliens.
46 or whatever it is. Give me them. Then give me Berman. Okay, that we can do horrible things to, because it's a toy. So we can that's Paul Reiser's character. For those of you who don't know Aliens, and then give us the APC. And like a one or two xenomorphs, to go with that, like a facehugger, they could be a facehugger accessory with every figure, so they can all get like thumped. You can have some open, some like wrap that you can pop over the head, like a little, like how you do it with the GI Joe helmet. Same thing, it's just a face. But I would love that. I think we needed. We were so close with Dodger, and Dodger's such a great proof of concept for that. And Peter Moline mentions the higher as
well. They have made Predators in essentially 3 3/4 inch scale,
and they did the APC.
They did
the APC from Aliens, and they did do and like I dig that, and I think that's so cool. But I actually do want it to be like these buggers, because if they do it in O-ring style. Yeah, because if they do them in O-ring style, we can bring them into things like play motions quite comfortably. And I don't know, I just would like it. I like that aesthetic being applied. We've seen aliens have gotten reaction figures. Aliens are getting higher toys. Aliens have had like Todd McFarlane figures, which may or may not come with a great break apart feature. Everybody, NECA's had like aliens figures, but I just want O-rings. Like we've even got aliens.
That's
Funko
literally
Pops.
all we want. We want O-rings. People will make figures in any other bloody style and format they want, but
check this guy.
Hate it.
Check this guy in the comments. His name's Stephen Jubber. He's like Leonard did aliens. Yeah, but they're not what I want. I mean, I would still happily get them if I encountered them here on the shelves. Please don't get me wrong. But yeah, thank you, Stephen, for your comment.
Yeah, welcome to the chat. I
hope
you enjoy your time with us. We're GI Joburg. We talk about GI Joe.
Yeah, Rick Shattered Glass. Paul is right. Thank you, and you were right for saying so. I'd buy the entire Aliens movie, scene for scene, perfect for O-rings. Yes, please, dude. Yes, please. I would lose a lot of money. Yeah. Carter Burke, damn. Carter.
There you go. That's the real deal.
Yeah. So yes, okay, cool. So now that we got our excitement for O-rings back, let's get into something else that's been really great for GI Joe.
Oh yeah.
What am I talking about, Rob? We're gonna get into Duke issue 4. Just if you guys, I'm just gonna preface it. If you guys were worried that this book was going to go in the same direction, like if you were worried that this was gonna float in some kind of weird obscurity, you are wrong. It's come back with a bang. I dig this. I dug this book, but let's get into why.
Yeah, my dude. I mean, just from the cover itself, I think it's a fantastic cover from Tom Riley. None of this happens in the issue, but it's certainly a fantastic shot to look at.
Oh, it's a cool cover, man. Like, it's fun. It's fun.
And the action takes place, I mean, it just picks up literally after where we were in the previous issue. The Joes are beset by the bloodhounds, the bloodmen,
the bloodhound gang,
the O positives. And yeah, we kind of come to Duke's opportunity to kind of like talk his reason, or the kind of like put forward his worldview. In the previous issue, we had Baroness kind of like trying to convince or persuade Duke to join her side. You know, kind of like pull him over towards like terrorism and living for yourself and doing whatever you want.
Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
But he kind of presents his own point of view, which I found very cool.
We're all in cages, Baroness. We're all.
And while this is all happening,
it's just I had to rip it off.
And while this is all happening, yes, we're having this fantastic fight going on in the background, where we kind of like get little like pieces of like what's keeping them busy the whole time.
How creative!
This very deep philosophical conversation about, I think you do care. You do need my help, and it kind of ends with a really badass line.
I would love that in like a TV series, the way that plays out. I'd love that in a TV series where you see like your buddy, like your main character's buddy, just gets like smashed in the face, and then it cuts to the gun in the other one's face, and they're having a long conversation, and then you smack back. And I love the pacing of this page. I think it is so clever, and I think there's so much to learn from this. I mean, it's a really clever page. It's fun. Maybe I'm just speaking like somebody who hasn't read.
Well, he set it up nicely in the previous issue, where you kind of had the background of them being busy, because you do instantly wonder, like, how did they get this chance to have this conversation? I mean, yes, the kind of like the space is kind of very obviously like squashed up, so it feels like, but they are occupied, like they can't stop what's happening in this very moment right now, as they have this conversation. Make a call, help me or not. Otherwise, stop wasting my time and pull the damn trigger. And apparently she likes his sense of humor, so she does end up helping him.
Which is cool. Also, on the previous page as well, there's this great panel with the Rock and some smashed goggles, and it just tells you so much about what's happened there. And then later on, you get that payoff because you see that poor dude in a pool of blood, like in the background somewhere, and it's so brutal. This was fun. Like,
yeah,
I feel like in terms of the story scaling, we covered a lot of ground in this issue. Just in terms of like, we get a lot of information now. We know a lot more kind of what's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like the situation gets set up. Obviously, they come to be imprisoned here. They're going to be taken back to Colonel Hawk. And then the previous issue is kind of more of the Baroness laying out her point of view, and then Blood coming and attacking. And we get the resolution of that entire situation in this issue. And we also kind of like move forward with like Duke finally getting to go where he needs to go. And we get a very cool reveal of some of the old equipment that whoever ran this place back in the day used.
Yeah,
an absolute smorgasbord of very cool GI Joe vehicles.
And then well, it's fun. I mean, it's a room full of tanks basically, but they do sort of imply that maybe there's something more, which is cool. And this is a fun little moment. At the very bottom panel of the page, we've got everybody's favorite Cobra helicopter, kind of making an aspect, should I say, of everybody's favorite unmade Cobra helicopter is there, which I thought was like good fan service. Some great framing there as well by putting the dude's head in the open gunner door of that.
So
you're gonna have to check out the page. Yeah,
which was important to do because of the coloring. I mean, it's this very kind of like muted browns and beigey type colors. So if you kind of see him stand out better against that space, you would need him to kind of be framed by the door.
Also, maybe I'm reading like too much into this now as well, but like this whole book has been very red. This whole book has been very red, which is kind of cool because I think the last few books have been kind of blue in moments or yellow, like as their primary palette, and then we get this little burst of like yellow for a bit here, which is kind of like giving us hope. It's kind of like the color design here. I know it's meant to represent the big like floodlights and whatever's in the, but it's also got that whole like, okay, our heroes have a glimmer of hope now, and that's quite bad.
It's a nice symbolism. I mean, maybe I didn't pick up on that consciously, but now that you're pointing it out, it does kind of make sense. It's
again, I could be like reading into it, but if I was coloring it, I would be thinking about stuff like that. So
yeah,
not that I'm the world's best colorer.
And Major Blood survived.
Yep,
it's absolutely insane. I was like, okay, he is still alive.
Right to the split ear, man. Ugh.
It's absolutely gorgeous. She owes me an eye.
Yeah, which is like so creepy. It makes him, because he's like, if you find a body, leave it for me. And it's like, you're like, what's coming next? Whoa. And he's like, I need an eye. And I'm like,
no, it's an eye.
That's a little worse than I was thinking.
and we get the money shot of the entire issue on the next page.
Yep.
As the ragtag team of good guys and Baron is kind of like come out of the pits, kind of like raised like hidden platform or ramp, and we have 3 GI Joe vehicles, 2 that were not seen in the previous shot of the underground space.
The APC,
yeah,
with the obviously missing canopy. I mean, missing canvas part. Like the toys, and the GI Joe jet, the de facto GI Joe jet, the Sky Striker.
Yeah.
I'm sad that Steven's not in this part of the episode right now, because I'm sure he would love to like pour over some of the technical details of this illustration.
Absolutely.
I just really appreciate it for being a strong, sharp, awesome silhouette of and a great approximation of the Sky Striker.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the thing that kind of stood out instantly was the addition of the 2 extra wheels that you can't kind of see visible just below the wings, which I assumed would be some sort of way of them taxiing it out. I mean, that's obviously not part of the real design of the...
Yeah.
Unless they've kind of like shifted those wheels way more forward.
Oh, I think that's just an artistic thing. I think they just wanted to show that it's on the ground. They didn't want to make it feel like it's flying in front of the other stuff. Because admittedly, when I saw the panel the first time, I was like, is that flying in front of them? Oh no, it's on wheels. I'm like, wait, hold on. Are they driving a Sky Striker out here?
Real slow, or they're going real fast.
Yeah, like that's quite fun. Okay, cool. So yeah. And hilarity ensues, man. So
yeah, they basically take Blood's guys out, and they're like, cannot stay with us. No amount of money is worth this. As they all basically book it. They're like, they were so scared by the sudden the appearance of these 3 military vehicles that they're like, nah, can't do it. We're done. We are out of here.
They're like, I actually love that they have faces, like that the bottom of the face is exposed.
Yes, you can
I know
see
why.
The kind of, like,
expressions. Yeah, I love that. I love seeing how like terrified and freaked out and like just all that stuff is just great. Then let's go. I mean, we don't want to like spoil too much. Well, I mean, we spoiled a lot already, but
I mean, that's essentially what
not
we're
that we
doing.
care. People have read. Yeah, but
or we will read it. But Baroness does manage to escape. She finds herself a fang, and she leaves the boys behind to go and do whatever it is she needs to do. And finally, Duke gets to kind of continue his mission.
Yes,
and go to whatever location was given to him by the good doctor.
By Dr. Burkhart's device, yeah.
And yeah, we get to see casual Destro, still not fully visible to us.
Casual Daddy Destro. Casually Daddy Destro. That needs to be a figure.
And they're talking about energy problems they're having, which I mean, obviously connects into the whole Energon situation in Cobra Commander, and like the discovery of Energon being a huge power source that can be used to run things, as he struggles to find power for his new tanks that he's created.
Which which sort of like links it to the Energon thing, because they must be using Cybertronian technology. At least that's what I feel is implied here, is that they're using Cybertronian technology, and that they don't have a power source strong enough to power that technology. So they're trying to figure themselves out there. And of course, I love seeing Mercer. I enjoy seeing Mercer as a bad guy. I do hope that somehow in this book we do have the moment where he does turn his back on Cobra, or at least we get that
I don't
first
think it'll happen in this book, not in Duke.
No, but I think we're going to get one. He's going to have one moment.
Oh, do you think so? He's kind of like.
I think there'll be one thing where he'll kind of be like, working conditions here aren't very good.
Not so good.
Kind of vibe.
What's it like on the other side?
Yeah, like that first glimmer. Not like he's just going to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to GI Joe. Yeah. Oh, he's just badass.
The scrap iron.
Big man with the scrap iron.
Yeah.
Being used properly in a comic book. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Cujo's very happy.
Accurate to his toy representation, or at least his classified. I believe.
Yeah, or at least the launcher is definitely. Yeah, actually, very much. Both of them are very classified.
And look at the character, because he attempts to shoot Duke down, and by the end of that, we get to see that he does have his scarred face, which I believe is a feature of the classified version.
Love that we have that though. Just it's cool to see it again. It's like I dig that. That's what makes him. That's like one of his unique features, and I love that we get to see his horrible burnt face. It really makes him more of a boss in this. So, what does it take to stop these guys or this guy?
He really is the action hero, Duke. He will survive almost anything. He crashes his jet, but he somehow makes it into the base. But is he going to survive whatever is about to be revealed at the end of this issue?
Yeah, I want to believe, and this is just me. This is an ego thing. I'm very sorry. The whole way this plays out, it's very similar to there's these guys called GI Joburg that do play motions, and they have this one series called Blazing Sand, and there's also an sort of a moment where they go into an abandoned Cobra base or into a Cobra base, and they are attacked by a similar entity. And it's funny because it was presented in a very similar way. I'd like to think that maybe this particular artist was either functioning on the same wavelength or is also a fan of those play motions. But I can't
It's more
guarantee
likely
that.
he's a fan of the play motions for sure. That's what I think. So. He's not tapped into that same creative space. It's possibly it, but for sure
not doing
he
the same
knows.
peyote.
So the issue ends with a beautiful reveal of the Energon Universe Bat. And I think it's gorgeous. It's very true to other versions of the Bat.
Yep.
It's the original, not so much the 90s version.
It's a nice mix, actually, of the original and kind of the classified, even though the classified is kind of based on the original design. But I like this. I like the look of the bat. I like that there's a bat in this. That's great. I was wondering if we were going to see them. I knew we were going to kind of, mostly because the next issue's cover has been shown.
I haven't seen that yet. So this was a cool moment for me where I discovered this. I was like, "Oh, it's a bat." Get bats.
I also dig. So I love that, like, what we've seen in this run so far is that we've seen Duke being a broken man with no purpose. Well, a broken man that is trying to find purpose, and that looks maybe for us, the readers, as if he's maybe a little bit insane. He's questioning his own sanity. And now he's finally got his feet on the ground. He's on terra firma. He knows what he's got to do. He knows that he's going to piss off people to do it. But he's got to do it. He's got to see it through. And I love that because we've needed that from a Duke. A Duke book, should I say. I've needed that from a Duke book because I've primarily ignored the IDW run. So to see Duke being Duke is great. Again, when I say things like this, I don't hate Snake Eyes. I absolutely love Snake Eyes. But I feel Snake Eyes is terribly overused and terribly overplayed. He's become a trope. He's almost a joke because of how he's used. And it's great. And that is because characters like Duke, characters like Stalker, characters like Rock and Roll, and a lot of other G.I. Joes aren't really given a lot of true agency in a lot of the G.I. Joe books. And I know maybe there'll be people that'll disagree with me on that, but I'm struggling to think of, more than a handful of moments where these characters really got to have their true moments. And Duke, for being the first shirt, hasn't really had that, in my opinion. So
I think also, I mean, I've always said, like G.I. Joe's very much about teamwork. It's about the men on the ground. And while Snake Eyes is probably the most recognizable character from G.I. Joe, it would be cool to have the association of G.I. Joe more to be the actual soldiers on the ground. Like, who are the people that are pushing themselves past their limits to be able to get shit done and to take on, the threats in the world that need to be taken on. And I feel having a G.I. Joe be that person, being a guy like Duke, being, the poster face for G.I. Joe, I think it feels more towards what I imagine when I think of G.I. Joe in general, and not just Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow.
It's not Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe.
Have them in there. I mean, we all love Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe.
It's always how it feels
like and his G.I. Joe friends.
Yeah, but that's what it always feels like. It's like Scooby-Doo. It's like, you get Scooby, it's like the Scooby-Doo show, but Scooby-Doo is just like, Scooby-Doo, he's cool and whatever. But then it becomes Scooby-Doo and his friends. And that's what it always feels like for me. It's like Snake Eyes and his friends. So it's cool to have Duke being a badass. It's cool to have a soldier.
It's cool to
being
have
a badass.
The focus being put onto other characters. Yes, they did do that sometimes in the comic books, but it's nice to kind of see them from the get-go having that be the focus. Because it feels like they are building their G.I. Joe team around Duke. Going forward, which I think is quite cool. And it's cool they have letters pages in these issues.
Yay!
And even print letters that seem antagonistic towards them. They got a letter here from Howard. His name was printed in here, and he had concerns regarding the continuity errors that he thought he saw in issue 2 of Duke. And he kind of like lays out Rock and Roll and Clutch were the best of friends in the original issues. And why did Duke talk about the pit being decommissioned in the 1980s? But actually, the events of the original comic books do contradict that. And I mean, it could be a concern of a lot of people, that maybe don't fully realize that this is set in its own universe. I think. And I can kind of see where people could get frustrated with like kind of seeing this version of Duke and this version of the history of GI Joe and being like, this isn't the version I grew up with. And it's kind of cool that they kind of like put this out there, the publishers of the comic book, and kind of like address it to kind of like maybe to reiterate that that Energon universe is a separate continuity, and they're taking it in their own direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, Skybound. Thank you. You see, I have this argument with a lot of stuff. When the Michael Bay Turtles movies came out, everybody's like, oh my God, Michael Bay is going to ruin our childhood. And I'm like, well, firstly, your childhood happiness shouldn't be so freaking fragile. But anyway, we have G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, written by Larry Hama and others, and drawn by tons of amazing artists. We have that. Okay?
Yeah, it still exists.
We don't need that again. Like, we don't need it again. We've got it. We've got one of the best versions, if not the best version. That's up to you, the reader, whatever. So it's cool to have this. It's cool to have a tangential universe, a tangential approach to this. It's why I loved Bless Their Souls. But when I think it was IDW who did it in the beginning when they did G.I. Joe The Origin, I loved that take. That was also cool. It was a great alternate take on what we already know, and it played on our tropes as fans because we were like expecting this, and it was a little bit different, and they paid it off in a different way, and that's cool. But I mean, do we really want the same thing written verbatim every single time? No, we don't.
No, new takes are cool, and that's also, I mean, because they're new takes doesn't mean that we automatically like or dislike them. I mean, you can always give every version of something a chance. I mean, just because something is new doesn't automatically mean it's good or bad.
No, that's also true. Yeah, just because it's new doesn't mean it's better, but it's just it's different, and difference is actually good. It'll either make you appreciate what's come before more, or appreciate the new stuff. I don't know. It's hit or miss. But
thankfully, the old stuff still exists.
I just always think it's special when a comic book, for me as somebody who loves comics and stuff like that, hasn't bought comics since 2008. I'm suddenly interested in buying comics again, and G.I. Joe has done that. G.I. Joe has made me interested in buying comic books again, and it's this Duke, these issues of Duke, and it's these issues of Cobra Commander, as I've said before. And to be fair, the earlier most of the 300 issues for the art are also worth buying, at least for me. Sorry, I know I'm already like, spoiler alert, Paul doesn't like how they're written. But I'm loving this, and it's a lot of fun, and it's pulling me back into G.I. Joe. I'm opening my Audible. I'm opening my Kindle app again to read comic books because, guys, as much as I'd love to own the physical copies here, Rob's got them He's got them at Reader's Den. He hasn't even got all of them. I hope he's still keeping some of them for me, where he can. And then the rest, I'll probably have to try and make a plan for. But they're probably going to get super famous now because of podcasts like this one.
Exactly.
That are talking them up. But Rob, what would you give it out of for our famous 5-star rating?
I think I would still go like 4.5. I think I'd probably still give it 4.5. I think it's. Because I was worried by the end of the previous issue that we're kind of like stuck in this one location like a lot. Not that I absolutely enjoy what was going on, but I felt like some people might get frustrated with like things aren't moving forward enough to kind of like see where does the story go, because it's only a 5-issue mini. Like literally, this was the 4th issue. Like the 5th issue is out.
No, we needed some momentum now. Yeah.
And it did do it. It kind of like continued what happened before, and we kind of had him like get to where he needs to go for something else to happen next for us to kind of wrap this all up and set us up for whatever comes next. And I'm still very excited for whatever the conclusion of the story is and where it might go next. So 4.5. I'll definitely give it that.
Sweet, dude. I'm going to echo that as well. Hopefully when the graphic novel, the trade of this comes out, on the front of the book, it will say 4.5 GI Joburg. 4.5 stars. Because we do dig it. It's a goodie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also a part of me is also optimistic and hopeful that 300 is also going to come around, that we just need to trust the process there, and hopefully it's going to come around and surprise us.
Absolutely.
And really
I think when you Because I mean, it's not just yes, it's still Larry writing it, but it's also like depending on where he's writing it, he's also working with a completely different creative team, editorial team. So I think it will take a while before they kind of like gel and they kind of like get to a place where they're like all comfortable and like things just work.
Communicating without speaking.
That's the thing, you know, like we love tons of issues Larry has written, but we also don't enjoy a lot of issues he has written as well. But that doesn't mean that we don't love him at all. We still think he's, you know, the coolest dude ever for just keeping GI Joe alive and keeping our interest in the hobby going. So,
yeah, I was gonna say something like a bad Larry Hama GI Joe book is still better than a lot of the bad. It's still better than a lot of good Devil's Due books and IDW books. But then I am reminded of some of those comics that came packed in with the comic 2-packs for the 25th anniversary, and I'm reminded that sometimes Larry just has an off day, man.
Well,
like,
and someone choosing the wrong issues, you know, that does happen. So long may Duke and Cobra Commander, I mean, the focus on them live, because Darren reminds us that the new Scarlet miniseries might actually be her finding Snake Eyes. I hope that isn't what happens, because he can come in later, I think.
Hey, even if they do find Snake Eyes, I think if the more they hold them back, the more they kind of let's call it choke Snake Eyes, in the sense that I know how that sounded. The more they kind of choke that character and they make that character earn his place in the team, and they really, and when I say earn his place in the team, I don't mean like, oh, he saves them from falling out of a like burning building or some crap. I mean like earns their place on the team by doing things that the team needs him to do, and so that there's trust, so that there's communication between that character. And I think Snake Eyes has been so badly warped as a character that we just expect him to appear all the time and do this, and we forget that actually communication and all that is kind of important for teamwork. And Snake Eyes doing what he's doing actually is a bad example of a heroic character in a lot of respects, at least in my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, somebody's got a
quick take from Hans Chow. Does G.I. Joe really need a cartoon, or can the line run on the strength of the comics alone?
I think it needs a good cartoon.
Oh, really? Are you saying that we have a couple of duds, or ones that didn't go where we thought they would?
Guys, look what X-Men is doing for the X-Men brand right now. X-Men 97. I mean, just to put things out there, like X-Men 97 came out, and preceding its release, the stats have been like, there's been like, it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous number of people and a ridiculous number of hours watched of the original series and the movies leading up to X-Men 97. And then that number actually jumped up after X-Men 97's first episode came out. So yeah, a cartoon does a lot. Does a lot for a brand. And the original X-Men cartoon did a lot for the X-Men brand, for Marvel.
I mean, it was all over social media. I mean, people were talking about X-Men. And I think Marvel themselves are taking advantage of this renaissance, as it were, this great new interest in the cartoon and the characters.
Suddenly the X-Men are good guys again. They're not just rebels and Genosha.
They're not just people, whatever the heck was going on for the last 10 years. I don't know. But they are relaunching the entire X-Men line. And I believe in August, or by the end of the year, they will have a fresh take on the X-Men. New X-Men.
New X-Men.
New X-Men.
New X-Men.
Which I think obviously it won't be exactly the same as the cartoon, but it will at least be trying to, I imagine, present a version of the X-Men that is more recognizable to a larger audience, while still trying to tell cool stories. Which I think I'm very excited for. And I think a cartoon does definitely help, because I mean we've seen there are people who are huge. You know, they were brought into G.I. Joe through the cartoons. It does open up to a wider audience of people to see these things, because not everyone reads comic books. Not everyone necessarily collects the toys as their first avenue into these things. If it's on your television, if it's the latest show coming out on Netflix or Disney or wherever, those are the things that get the marketing. That gets the idea out there. That's why people know all of the Iron Man and Captain America and Thor now, because of the movies. They don't know them because of the decades of comic books that had been coming out before those movies existed. It's crazy. But it really is it's the other medias that draw people, that bring people into these the original medias where the characters were presented, whether it's the toys or the comic books. And I think definitely a good cartoon would help. Would help Jar Jar lift right up there, because obviously the movies didn't help so much. But
with the cartoon, I feel like we need this for a podcast. I think we actually need to have a podcast episode of this. For the maybe our next live episode should be this. We should talk about 323. We should talk about what a potential GI Joe cartoon should be like. And I've got an idea, and I don't want to share it with the folks out there right now. I want to keep it secret. I want to poke the snake guys, as it were, until the next one. But I think that would be a fun topic for us to kind of attack, because we've spoken a lot about a GI Joe TV series that we want. We've spoken about the movies and stuff, but we've never really discussed what we think would make a good GI Joe cartoon in today's time. And today's time is very different from 10 years ago when we started this podcast. Well, 12 years ago when we started this podcast. So I would love to get into that. And Darren Cobb says the comics and the toys were good enough to keep him going. For me, to be very honest with you, the toys were enough for me for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. The toys were what drew us in. I think it was years later we discovered cartoons. Stephen randomly found issues of the comic book. Absolutely. I mean, Darren even goes even further, where he's like, he actually came from Battle Action Force. I mean, that wasn't even the real GI Joe comics. It was the fake ones from Britain. You.
Don't say stuff like Joe, Chasing Eddie is also just, hey, Book Force, greetings from NEC Birmingham. Was wearing the Joburg shirt at the event today. Oh, you're such a
hell
yeah, man. Speaking of GI Joburg, the shirt, we do have them available on our merch store. So if you guys want to get some cool merch,
is that it? Teespring.com?
Yeah, it's on the link in the description below. So you can grab merch there if you want to. Thank you very much for those of you that have picked up some merch recently. It's very cool. I hope you enjoy your new Snake Force or GI Joburg shirt.
You can try, Darren. You can try. Darren commented, "I will find you."
If Darren finds Rob's just gonna give Darren a hug, a big hug and a kiss. Also, special shout out to these fantastic human beings over here, the Berg Force, the Patreons. Patreon guys who have been helping us run the channel, keep the channel going, helping to sort out things like paying for
administrative work,
all the administrative little nitty gritties here and there, and for also
crossing the eyes,
all that stuff, and for slowly fueling the purchase of a new plugin for my audio, for my music making software. And with that, I do want to let guys know that there's a new track. The secret name is Oscar Mike. The patrons have already had a sample of it. And as well as the YouTube members, they've also had a sample of it. So I'll be unleashing that for the Berg Force next week. So I'm very happy with it. I just wanted to listen to it like 200 or 300 times before I made it like a thing. But it's sometime this coming week. I should have it out. That's something to get excited about.
By your music again.
Rob, as we walk out the door, is there anything exciting you want to tell us? Did you pick up anything new in your life? Any new toys?
I don't have anything new, but I mean, as I continue to kind of like slowly drip feed people the figures that I received. So this is another Tim Wilde special. Is Scarlet from the Classified line.
I love her head sculpt. Controversial.
She's very pretty. And she's very much, even more so than Duke, I would say. She's more so
definitely prettier than Duke.
Oh, she's way prettier, but she's more so a unique look, and very much the classified, or at least the original concept classified stuff they were going for. It's like inspired by what she looks like, but very much her own version. I mean, she even has, I just discovered she has like these kind of like boosters on her legs, on her thighs.
It's for double jumping.
Yeah, for double jumping. So very much an action figure inspired version of the character, but very cool. She comes with her crossbow. She comes with 3 knives, which I think is cool. One on the chest and two that I assume go on the back, because I made them fit in there. So I'm guessing they go there.
Yes, they do. They do.
No, they don't.
They're meant to go the other way around, though.
Oh, really? What do you?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, at least no, I lie. I think they're meant to go, but in my brain, practically they should be the other way around. Unless you're crossing to grab them out, but then you're risk cutting yourself if you pull them out of the piece of your shoulder. But yeah, it looks cool.
It fits in that way. I think my only criticism is the silly belt thing, because it keeps moving around. So the little belt around her waist, it does not stay in position. It just moves. So whenever I move her around, she just kind of like moves with it, or it moves on its own little like jet, mind. Fantastic articulated figure, very cool. Obviously not the classic version that we're used to seeing, but still very, very cool figure to own.
Nice, dude.
Thank you.
Classified. I like Classified Scarlet. I just feel like it's the younger version of Scarlet. Like, I want the seasoned version of Scarlet as a figure. That's the one that's coming out now. So
the Gilf version of her. Understandable.
Yeah, or more like the wolf. But maybe what's the version of that where you just want to give them a hug? Yeah, Classified Mutton Junkyard Joe Fan 84 just got one of those. I really like that toy. I love it. I've seen people do head swaps where they put like Mutt's head on Junkyard. That's Mutt, the man's head on the dog, if you guys don't know. For those of you who are maybe not so deep in your GI Joe knowledge, I didn't get anything new. I popped over to a toy fair. This was, how convenient was this? Right next door to the place that I live, there's a church and a convention center. But it's a church, but they do exhibitions and stuff there. And they had an exhibition there called Richie's Toy Fair. It's actually technically Richie's Toy Car Fair, but it's changed now to Richie's Toy Fair. And they have tons of like die-cast cars and with different scales, 1 to 62 or 1 to 64, all the way up to like 1 to 12 and all that crazy stuff. And it's like it's all there. But the reason you want to go there is if you're a toy fan or toy collector in South Africa, that's where a lot of guys kind of get together and maybe sell a lot of retro stuff. So instead of having to dig for it all online, which I know it sounds like such hard work, it's actually great to just see bins and bins of vintage stuff. So like vintage X-Men toys from the Toy Biz line, vintage Batman toys. Cool. Zantara actually had a great idea for O-ring Batman animated series figures. I would be totally down for Batman animated series O-rings. Those would be so cool. But yeah, so they had some Batman figures there. A great collection of stuff overall. I think I got there a little bit late, so I did miss out on some of the major scoops on the major hauls. Yeah, see what scoops? I did there, Rob. Scoops. I did, however, stumble onto a really cool find there. There was a bunch of GI Joes in a bag and parts of GI Joes and accessories and whatever. I really wanted to pick this up, but I didn't have the money. For 2,500 rands, I could get a big bag of GI Joe parts, accessories, and some completed figures. And of the very few completed figures that were in there, one of those figures was Keelhaul, which gets the gears spinning a little bit, because you have to wonder, because a lot of the collector's stuff was like, looked like a childhood collection, like he had them since he was a kid, because some of them are broken the way kids would break their toys. So did this guy have a flag? Is there another flag owner in South Africa, or was there another flag owner in South Africa? One can wonder. So anyway, so that was pretty rad. So anyway, I couldn't pick up the bag of toys. I do have a link to that vendor. Him and I are actually friends, which is quite cool, because he said he would keep the bag for me. So maybe I might have a fresh kill haul.
Maybe make a deal.
Excited about it. And still no flag, but I'm okay with that. I haven't got space for flag. Yeah. But yeah, guys. Yeah, that was it. Rob, is there anything else you want to add, or should we leave these people so they can enjoy it?
I know Hans did ask for you to explain to him what X-Men 97 is, but that we might be here for another 30 minutes. But suffice to say, Hans, it is an awesome cartoon, which is the continuation of the 1990s X-Men cartoon. You should be able to find it on Disney Plus or anywhere else on the internet, maybe. It's like the equivalent of Batman the Animated Series, but for X-Men, essentially.
And also with a slightly more grown-up writing, which is cool.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I would agree with that.
Somebody check this GI Joburg guy. It's all like mask for Hasbro O-rings.
We both clicked it.
Mask for Hasbro O-rings. So we already spoke about that.
That's probably a good idea. I like that suggestion, GI Joburg. Thank you. Well, it's the continuation, Hans. It continues. So from in the 90s, it ended in 1996 in the real world, and then now 20 however years later.
Hans, I love you, my dude, but do you even internet? How did the algorithm miss you, bro? How did you not know about this? But anyway, you're in for a treat. Enjoy. At least you've got 4 episodes to look forward to. We've been fools waiting for the next one come out. Like
as they come out, and sometimes
we've been watching this cartoon like it's 1994,
and every other episode is the 3rd episode as well for us. We're like, it's the 3rd episode. I loved it. The next, I loved the 3rd episode. Like, Paul, we've already this it's the 4th episode.
Yeah. Old Man Outback 91 Snaky. Old Man Outback guys on the way out. Just got a shout out here. Old Man Outback 91 Snaky is Virtual Boy because of that giant red visor. Yeah, I can see that making sense. Also, I enjoyed playing with my Virtual Boy back in the day. So it's odd, but still fun. That's 91 Snaky in a nutshell. Yes, you see, now I know there's 5 people in the whole world who like Virtual Boy, and now I'm one of them. So now I have to
find one of the good theme song. Yes, this one. Exactly.
One day I got a video clip of this. I'll play this for you guys one day. I did the song. I performed the song with the musical instrument.
Well, I look forward to seeing
instrument is Banshee.
Poor Hans lives under a rock. Well, that's where we live too. So
that's where you get strong, bro. You get strong under that rock. You're like, I'm gonna lift up the rock in the morning.
And gotta lift up the rock when I need to go pee. Watching the Fast, being in the Fast 5 movie. Ask him how that went.
To be fair,
we're rambling.
Yeah. Is Hans in the Fast 5 movie? Yeah, he's probably there in the background. Like, somebody's like, "Where's the bathroom?" And Hans is like, "Over there, next to Gary Busey." Over there. Anyway, guys, this has been GI Joburg 3-2-1. Berg. Have a rad one. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Enjoy some art. Enjoy some comics.
Stay cool. Stay dry. Stay photos. Awesome.
Yeah.
Send this guy some photos for his competition. Yeah.
It's not a competition. Just send photos.
Yes. Photos.
And remember, don't choke snake, guys.
Don't do it. Don't do it.